Welcome to our final episode of Reality Transurfing, Navigating the Multivariant World. Throughout this series, we've explored how perception shapes experience, how emotions function as creative forces, how to navigate collective energy structures, and how to apply practical techniques for conscious reality creation. Today, we're examining the ethical dimensions of these practices and how transurfing integrates with various worldviews, both spiritual and scientific. When we acknowledge that consciousness participates in creating reality rather than merely perceiving it, profound ethical questions emerge. If our perceptions and emotions help shape collective experience, what responsibility do we bear for the realities we manifest? Unlike simplistic manifestation approaches that emphasize individual gain, transurfing recognizes the interconnection between personal and collective reality creation. Research on social network effects demonstrates this interconnection empirically. Studies show that emotional states spread through social networks like contagion, influencing up to 3 degrees of separation. One person's reality shift creates ripple effects through their social connections, with positive emotional states shown to improve others' well-being by up to 25% across network connections, suggesting that individual reality creation inherently influences collective experience. Ecological models of well-being further validate this understanding by showing how individual and collective flourishing are inextricably linked. Studies on social cohesion demonstrate that communities with higher levels of interpersonal trust and cooperation experience better health outcomes, lower crime rates, and greater resilience to challenges. From a transurfing perspective, this research confirms that ethical reality creation must balance individual desires with awareness of their broader impact. Zellen's philosophy emphasizes that personal freedom increases when we become conscious of how we create our reality. Yet this freedom carries inherent responsibilities. Research on prosocial behavior demonstrates that acts benefiting others activate neural reward pathways, suggesting that our neurobiological systems are designed to reinforce behaviors that benefit both self and others, a finding that aligns with transurfing's emphasis on harmony and coordination. Studies on virtue ethics provide further evidence for this balance, showing that the most sustainable forms of happiness emerge from eudaimonic well-being, living according to one's values, and contributing to something greater than oneself. Research demonstrates that individuals pursuing meaning-centered goals rather than purely hedonic pleasure report 43% higher life satisfaction and show greater resilience during challenges, supporting transurfing's emphasis on alignment with deeper purpose. In practical application, this means consciously choosing which realities we energize through attention, emotion, and intention. Research on attention allocation demonstrates that what we consistently focus on literally reshapes neural pathways, making those perceptual patterns more likely to recur. Ethical transurfing involves deliberately directing attention toward realities that benefit both individual and collective flourishing, creating the perceptual scaffolding that supports mutual benefit. Let's examine a concrete example from 2027. A community leader applied transurfing principles to neighborhood transformation. Rather than fighting against crime and deterioration, which would feed those pendulums with energy, they visualized and emotionally aligned with community prosperity and cooperation. They created detailed slides of vibrant public spaces, active community engagement, and thriving local businesses. They reduced the importance of quick results, understanding that timeline pressures create excess potential that blocks organic development. Research on community change initiatives shows that programs emphasizing resident empowerment and iterative progress achieve 37% greater sustainability than top-down approaches focusing on rapid metrics, validating transurfing's emphasis on reduced importance and iterative coordination. Most importantly, they coordinated individual and collective intention by creating structures for shared reality creation. They established community visualization sessions, where residents collectively imagined neighborhood improvements and then aligned actions accordingly. This exemplifies ethical transurfing, using reality creation techniques not for personal advantage at others' expense, but to facilitate collective flourishing through synchronized intention and action. Transurfing offers a unique bridge between scientific understanding and spiritual insight. In quantum physics, the observer effect demonstrates that the act of measurement influences what is measured, suggesting that consciousness participates in determining physical reality. While this doesn't prove transurfing, it creates conceptual space for consciousness as an active participant rather than passive observer. Neuroscience's predictive processing theory further supports this bridge by revealing that perception involves active construction rather than passive reception. The brain doesn't simply record reality. It predicts and constructs experience based on expectations, prior knowledge, and emotional states. This empirical understanding aligns with Transurfing's emphasis on how perceptual focus shapes experienced reality. Transurfing's compatibility with various spiritual traditions further enhances its integrative potential. From Buddhist non-attachment to Christian surrender, from Taoist flow to indigenous relational awareness, Transurfing's emphasis on reduced importance, aligned intention, and conscious perception finds resonance across wisdom traditions. This compatibility allows practitioners to integrate these principles within their existing worldviews rather than requiring philosophical conversion. Consider this relatable scenario. A person struggles with reconciling scientific materialism and spiritual intuition. Having been taught that reality is exclusively physical and objectively separate from consciousness, they nevertheless experience subjective phenomena, suggesting deeper connections. This tension creates cognitive dissonance that impedes both scientific curiosity and spiritual exploration. Upon discovering transurfing, they begin applying its principles experimentally, noting results without attachment to belief systems. They practice reduces importance around epistemological certainty, allowing both scientific and intuitive knowing to coexist without forced reconciliation. Research on cognitive flexibility shows that this both and thinking approach increases creative problem-solving capacity by 24% compared to binary, either or thinking. Through consistent practice, they develop a personalized approach that honors both empirical evidence and subjective experience, creating slides that incorporate both rational understanding and intuitive knowing. This integration resolves cognitive dissonance while enhancing both scientific exploration and spiritual growth. From a transurfing perspective, this scenario illustrates how the framework can bridge seemingly opposing worldviews through practical application rather than theoretical reconciliation. While transurfing begins with individual awareness and practice, its principles naturally extend to collective application. Research on group dynamics demonstrates that collective intention significantly influences shared outcomes. Studies of organizational culture show that groups with aligned purpose and coordination achieve 31% higher performance metrics than those with fragmented intentions, supporting transurfing's emphasis on coordination between individual and collective processes. Social contagion research further validates this extension by showing how individual transformation catalyzes group change. Studies demonstrate that when just 10% of a population adopts a new perspective or behavior, it often reaches a tipping point for wider adoption. This suggests that individual reality creation practice creates ripple effects that can eventually manifest as collective transformation, particularly when those individuals occupy connector positions in social networks. The practical application involves balancing individual sovereignty with collective contribution. Research on flourishing communities shows that the most resilient social systems balance individual autonomy with shared purpose, creating what researchers call differentiated unity. This empirical finding aligns with transurfing's emphasis on maintaining individual reality creation while contributing to collective flourishing, suggesting that ethical practice enhances both personal and shared well-being. As we look toward the future, emerging research on consciousness continues to expand our understanding of reality creation. Studies on psychoneuroimmunology demonstrate measurable physiological responses to conscious mental states, with meditation and visualization shown to affect immune function, inflammatory response, and cellular repair. This research provides empirical support for Transurfing's assertion that consciousness influences physical reality through mechanisms we're only beginning to measure. Collective applications of Transurfing principles are increasingly finding expression in organizational development, community building, and social change initiatives. Research on collective intelligence shows that groups with higher emotional intelligence, balanced participation, and aligned purpose demonstrate enhanced problem-solving capacity, suggesting that Transurfing practices applied collectively may enhance social system functioning in measurable ways. The frontier of intention-based technologies represents another promising development. Research on human-computer interaction demonstrates that intention-sensitive interfaces, systems designed to respond to focused attention and emotional states, show enhanced user engagement and effectiveness. From a Transurfing perspective, these technologies externalize the internal processes of reality creation, potentially amplifying human capacity for conscious manifestation through technological augmentation. The ultimate value of Transurfing emerges not through conceptual understanding alone, but through personal integration and experimentation. Research on experiential learning shows that direct application increases knowledge retention by 65–70% compared to conceptual learning alone. By approaching Transurfing as a living laboratory rather than a rigid belief system, practitioners can discover which elements resonate with their unique life circumstances. This experimental approach aligns with both scientific methodology and contemplative traditions. Research on psychological flexibility demonstrates that individuals who maintain exploratory attitudes toward experience show greater resilience and adaptability than those with fixed mindsets. From a Transurfing perspective, this experimentation itself represents a form of reality creation, navigating between potential variations through conscious exploration rather than habitual reaction. The invitation is to approach Transurfing principles with both critical thinking and open curiosity, testing their efficacy through direct experience while maintaining discernment. Research on wisdom development suggests that this balanced approach, integrating analytical evaluation with experiential knowing, facilitates optimal development. By combining intellectual discernment with experiential testing, practitioners can develop nuanced understanding that transcends both blind belief and rigid skepticism. As we conclude our exploration of Transurfing, several key insights emerge. First, conscious reality creation carries inherent ethical dimensions that extend beyond individual benefit. Research consistently demonstrates that individual and collective well-being are interconnected, supporting Transurfing's emphasis on coordination between personal desires and broader impact. The most sustainable manifestations appear to be those that enhance both individual and collective flourishing. Second, Transurfing offers a valuable bridge between seemingly disparate ways of knowing. While expressed in metaphorical language that differs from academic discourse, its core principles find surprising resonance with empirical research across psychology, neuroscience, and social science. This integration suggests that ancient wisdom about reality creation may have anticipated scientific discoveries about how consciousness shapes experience. Finally, the most valuable approach to Transurfing appears to be balanced integration rather than absolutist adoption. Research on psychological flexibility suggests that individuals who maintain flexible exploration while testing principles in their lives develop more sustainable practices than those adopting rigid belief systems. By approaching Transurfing as a set of testable hypotheses rather than required beliefs, practitioners can discover which elements create meaningful transformation in their unique reality. Throughout this series, we've explored how Transurfing offers a framework for understanding the relationship between consciousness and reality. While presented in metaphorical language, these principles align with emerging research on perception, emotion, and social dynamics. By applying these concepts mindfully and ethically, we can become conscious participants in reality creation rather than passive experiencers of circumstance. Thank you for joining this exploration of reality transurfing, navigating the multivariant world. I hope these concepts have sparked both intellectual curiosity and practical experimentation in your life. Remember that the true value of any philosophy emerges not through conceptual understanding alone, but through lived experience and thoughtful application. Until next time, may your reality creation be both conscious and compassionate.